Hi kindergarten families, this is my very first video tutorial for families to walk you through some of the things that we do in class. This is the first one I've ever done, so bear with me. I promise you it won't be very long. I just wanted to walk you through your child's red reading folder that they brought home today. The kids are so excited. This is the first time that they will be using these. This is pretty much the only homework we will have in kindergarten, so hopefully they're pumped for it and they don't look at it as more of a daunting task. Since I have you on video, I thought it'd be great to walk you through and visually see some of the things that are inside this folder. I'm a very visual learner, so if I see it, I understand a little bit better. So hopefully you're the same. So inside your child's folder, they'll bring this folder back every single day. If they forget once or twice, that's okay. We understand life happens. But the idea is that as soon as they're finished with it at night, that they put it back in their backpack and they'll turn it in every morning. And so they can bring home a new book to read with you every single night. So let's look at what's inside. Many of these papers have been labeled. Please keep in the folder. This is so that way if your child travels between households, maybe is with mom one night and dad with one night, or maybe it goes to a grandparent's after school or to a babysitter. This way everything comes back and forth and is always with your child and it's with them. So while it might be tempting to take some of this out and hang it on the refrigerator for now, please put it back in the folder and we'll get it back to you in a timely manner. The first sheet that I wanted to show you is our Read Everyday letter. This kind of maps out how to read with your child at home, and I know that sounds silly. I know how to read with my child at home. Gives parents a couple just examples on what they can do and helps them understand how to help their child at home. On the back side of that folder, it says Read Everyday, sample reading questions. One of the things that I'm going to ask you to do is after you've read with your child and your child's read to you is to further their comprehension by asking them some comprehension questions. So this one has a great little list of things that you can come up with if you need some help with that. So things like what time of day does the story take place? Is the story full of facts? If so, tell me 2 facts that you've learned. Could this story really happen? Why or why not? So these questions kind of get your kids thinking after they've read and kind of just keeps that cognitive process going. So we want to make sure that they're being asked questions every day. With that, I'm going to ask that when you read with your child that you kind of let them struggle through it just a little bit and don't tell them the words right away. They'll bring home a book every night, a book that they've read in class. These texts are pretty much very predictable. They have a lot of predictable text, which means you see the same thing on every page. So the table is going on the truck, and it matches the picture. And then on the next page it says the bike is going on the truck. And so students get used to that pattern, which helps them become stronger readers. While they're reading, we ask that they sit down. They're not wandering around the house, that they maybe just sit at a table or on the couch. And one of the biggest things that we're doing right now is focusing on one-to-one correspondence. So touching each word as they read it. If they come to a word they're not quite sure of, I always urge students to look at that beginning sound and try it first. A lot of times the word will match the picture. So if they're getting really stuck, just ask them to use that strategy of use the picture and to look at the sounds. And as they start reading harder text, it'll become a little harder. But for right now, this is what we're working on as a whole class. So they'll have their book, and I ask that while it's tempting to just kind of walk around the house or do dishes or do something else instead of sit with them, really take that time every night to sit with them for 10 to 15 minutes and read. And really 10 to 15 minutes is pretty much all they need right now. If they want to read longer, that's awesome, but don't push them to go much longer than 20 minutes tops. So again, they'll bring home their book inside their folder. They'll also have a reading log, and this reading log just kind of walks you through what books they've read. So for example, you'll put the date, the title of the book they read, the book level, and that is always on the back of the book. If you need help finding it, it's right here. And then we ask that you just mark down, was it easy for your child? Which means that they were fluent, they had no errors, they were able to answer questions on their own. Was it just right? Were they kind of read in short and long phrases? They might have had a couple of errors, maybe one or two said a word, and that they can still answer the questions, or was the book challenging for them? Which means they read word by word real slowly. They have lots of errors as they're reading, and they cannot answer questions when you ask them about it. This will help me know which books to work with them, because often I'm working with 4 to 6 kids, whereas you get the one-on-one attention with them, and so you'll be able to tell better than I will. And then there's also a spot for comments, so if you have any questions or want me to know anything about their reading, you could put it on there. And there's just a whole bunch of lines on here, and it's on the back side as well. And we'll just keep working on these until it's full, and then I'll replace it with a blank one when it's completely full. The other thing that we have in here is a sight word list. In kindergarten, sight words are super important. These are words that we see every single day, but not necessarily words that we can sound out. So as a student can sound out d, g, dog, a word like the doesn't really play by the rules. Right now we're working on trying to master the first column, the first 20. If your student wants a challenge to move on to something harder, they can move on and try to know all 100 before the end of the year. But our end of the year goal is going to be 20. So most kids right now are about 5 to 10 sight words. We work on them in class, but then you can also work with them at home. And places like Pinterest have awesome games that you can find, or you can Google sight word games. On our data sheet, I've got some examples on how you can practice those as well, which leads me to our data sheet. Every unit, we will update you with a new unit learning target. Currently, we're in Unit 4. And this was just something that we wanted parents to know where their students are all the time and how they can help, and kind of see that progress as they make the progress. And it just makes it more transparent for parents. And so we're not just talking at conferences and at report card time. You kind of have a picture of where your student's at as we move. So for this current unit, we have 5 learning targets, and these are the 5 big areas that we work on in our reading right now. So things like I can name the characters, setting, and events in a story. I can count the syllables in a word. I can say each sound in a word. I can identify the sounds letters make. And I can read sight words. And underneath this column, I just put a couple bulleted points on ways that parents can help at home if they're not quite sure how to help their students with that at home. And sometimes you may see a little bit different data point than we do at school. And just if you notice that, please let me know. I always ask students, like, if you think you're moving up, let me know and we can check it. Underneath, we have what we call our success criteria. And this is a 4, 3, 2, 1 scale of each of these learning targets. So for example, for target 1, it has a 4, 3, 2, 1 scale on where students scored on their pre-assessment right now. So on Friday, I sat with your student and we highlighted where they currently were on their data as of, it was before break, so I marked it 12:10 because that's when we did that data. And so they marked where they were. The goal in kindergarten is to be at a level 3, which is performing at grade level. Some students may go higher to above grade level standards, and some students might hang out underneath a little bit longer at approaching grade level or not meeting grade level standard. And so the students went through and they highlighted where they were in each of these columns based on their pre-assessment data. Now this data is not final, that's just where they were, and I always encourage them saying, we haven't learned this yet, so a 1 or a 2 is okay right now. And eventually we'll work our way up to that 3 and 4, but it really helps us drive where our goal setting needs to be. So for instance, a student might be at a 1 on a character on target number 1. A student might be at a number 3 on target number 2. They might be at a a level 2 on target 3. They might be at a level 4 on target 4, and then a 3 on here, and that's okay. That really kind of shows us what area we need to focus on with our students, both in school and at home. But the ideal goal is to get them to that level 3, that standard, that kindergarten standard. On the back side of this sheet is our year-long data tracking. And again, I'm going to ask that this sheet stays in your folder so I can take notes on it and then send it back and forth. As we move on to Unit 5, I will make another one and staple it to this, so that way you always have your students' data and you have that very clear window of where your student is as a reader. On the back side, we did some more goal setting and we did some more data looking, or data diving, we like to call it. And so on here we have our TRC levels, which is our reading comprehension levels. And I did make an error. This should be PC, then RB, and then A, B, C, D, and all the way up. The end of kindergarten goal is to be at a level C. And many of our students are not close to that right now, and that's okay. We've restructured the way we're doing guided reading, so that way students are getting a more one-on-one basis with a teacher. So students went through and they marked off with a sticker what level they're at, and so the levels that they've put stickers on, they've passed, and they're working on the one above that. So for instance, if your student has RB, PC, and A marked, that means they're currently working at a level B. On this side of the sheet, we have our sight words. Oh, and I realize that's backwards for you guys, but on this side, we have our sight words. And so, again, sight words are so important in kindergarten. We spend a lot of time with our differentiated layered centers playing games to practice the sight words, and not so much the old-fashioned drill and kill where it's just flashcards. So some students right now, here's kind of our scale of this. Our goal by the end of the year is to be at 20 plus sight words. Most students are hanging out here around the 4, 5, 10 range. So again, I ask that parents practice these sight words at home as well. Down below on each of these, I have, again, more suggestions on how to help at home. I'm always having parents say, how can I help at home? How can I help at home? These are great ways to have you help at home. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed tonight sitting with your child, cuddled up, have them point to the words as they're reading. And yeah, have a great time. Enjoy these. If you have any questions at any time, please feel free to email me. And I would love some feedback on if you like the video better than just an email. I know I would have read 3 lines of the email and then stopped reading. So I really wanted to make sure that parents knew how important the partnership of home reading is. So thanks so much. Have a great night. And I can't wait to see all those folders turned in tomorrow morning. Take care. Bye now.